Everyone, this is going to be a bit of a different video this time. Not news video. Don't log off yet. Don't log off yet. It'll be something different I'm going to be doing. I've been sitting on this idea for a few days now, and it's more of an opinion video based on the recent TennoCon stuff. Has to do with actually the whole uh Chimeraframe stuff and how that's actually a great way for DE to kind of move on in the narrative from protoframes, because I know that's a bit of a contentious topic. So I thought I'd kind of give a breakdown of that and talk about that and be like, hey, it's an interesting idea that they're going forward with. I haven't heard anyone talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it. So yeah, theory rant video. Cool, right? At least I think it is. So let's just get into it. So, Chimeraframes, right? They're the new shtick that DE seems to be going with. And, oh, by the way, if you're not a Warframe fanatic or just, yeah, you know what? If you're here, I hope you're into Warframe. If you're not, you should get into it. Anyways, back to Chimera. So, Chimeraframes, right? The new thing DE seems to have come up with to kind of push the whole narrative of Warframe forward. You can clearly tell that DE has been wanting to get more characters into Warframe beyond just the Tenno-operator-drifter, who technically the same person, technically not, depending on how you want to deal with the whole eternalism thing. It's weird. The Lotus, and now Lloyd, who seems to be kind of longer in the plot because he's involved with Entradi, and Entradi's big in the plot, so he just kind of comes along. He's kind of becoming our Alfred or Batman. I don't know. I get that feeling from him sometimes. He's definitely becoming the Alfred of the group at the moment, but kind of replacing Ordis. Just don't tell him I said that. But the problem with this is, right, is that they clearly want to have more storytelling from a Warframe perspective, right? But up until now, Warframes have been mute. They've been silent. They can't talk, they can't speak, they can only roar, which kind of limits the amount of options you can do for storytelling from their perspective. I mean, if it's kind of like telling the world's perspective from a dog with no greater intelligence than a dog. I mean, you could do that, but you wouldn't get much in the way of kind of deep storytelling. And that kind of experimented with moving on that from things like Umbra. Umbra is an intelligent Warframe. He's sentient. He has his own thoughts and stuff like that. But again, much like a Warframes, he's kind of a mute. He doesn't speak. And as far as we know, he doesn't have any internal monologues, probably because of all the history he has. Again, if you don't know how Umbra, go and play that quest. I'm not going to spoil too much of that, but it's fun. It goes into the history of Warframes and why they are the way they are. Pretty dark, but that's just kind of Warframe in general sometimes. So anyways, go look at that. So it wasn't really moving the narrative forward with Warframe-centric characters. We have deep lore of things like, Rhino going insane and eating people, I think. I don't know how that works, but yeah. And like secondhand accounts of Warframes, but we don't really have any accounts from Warframes from their own perspective, right? They attempted to kind of fix this with protoframes. Protoframes are humans that have been turned into Warframes. But the problem is, because they're originally humans, and even Entradi himself, who created them, kind of comments how they're all doomed possibly to become Warframes at some point, there's a bit of baggage that comes along with being a proto-frame. So you can't really tell it from a frame's perspective, more from the human perspective, who just happens to be a Warframe. In other words, you can't really create more proto-frames without, getting away from that baggage of being a proto-frame. It's kind of a narrative beat that you kind of have to bring along with the character, which I wouldn't say limits what you can do with them, but it certainly is a factor. Plus, as we kind of see with proto-frames, they kind of have to be based on a Warframe themselves. So you kind of have to create two different characters when you do it. You have to create the new Warframe, but you also have to create the proto-frame for them, which is kind of its own thing. So you can't really create any new characters from this. They tried to do it with Roth, which it worked out well. We got Uriel out of it, which is a really cool frame. But again, Roth and Uriel are not the same person. He is a version of Uriel, and he has a deep history with the Uriel line. Again, more story I won't spoil. But he isn't himself like the Uriel. He doesn't identify as Uriel. He identifies as Roth, and again, Roth storyline. So you can't have many frame-specific storylines. So, okay, we went really far with protoframes, and there's a lot of them. People also kind of don't want to see more of them. Like, when I was at TennoCon this year, I got the opinion that a lot of people are split on the protoframe issue, or at least, or maybe not split per se, but there's a lot of opinion of maybe there's too many protoframes. So, maybe, so okay, we don't want more protoframes. So how are we going to push the more Warframe narrative forward, right? And unfortunately, there's, again, can't go too far back because They experimented with the idea of having, for example, Jade in Jade Shadows. She was a frame at one point, but again, much like Umbra, they're all mute, so all you can have is kind of post kind of notes in the margins, and there's not really much on immediate storytelling you can do. It's kind of just tablets and stuff like that. It's hard to describe, but that doesn't really push the narrative, right? You can't really have many characters that are silent in Warframe because you can't really do much in the way of internal storytelling with them. Which finally, if you're still following, thank you, uh, finally brings us all the way back to Chimeraframes. Chimeraframes are fun in that way because they're kind of this new idea to have more Warframe-based characters in the narrative without going so far as to be human frames and, as such, proto-frames and all the baggage that comes with that. They identify as the frames. The new frame, the detective frame, whose name I still cannot be bloody asked to remember, well, not asked, I just cannot remember to save my life, he identifies as the frame himself. He is the last of the Warframe, so to speak. He's not a human. He identifies as the frame. And well, yes, he is a chimera between human, or not human, between Warframe and sentient. He still has his own internal thoughts and his own internal monologues. And again, Matt Mercer is playing him, so that's fun. But even though he cannot speak, he can still have his internal monologues, which allows us to have a Warframe-based perspective without having to bring in the whole proto-frames and humans and all that stuff that comes with it. Because again, proto-frames also have to be kind of made, and yeah, chimeras do as well, but there's, again, a lot more baggage that comes with proto-frames. So it allows us to have a lot more Warframe-centric stories without having to deal with all the stuff that comes with proto-frames. So it's a nice middle ground. And while, yes, our detective frame is, by his own admission, the last of the chimeras, who's to say that is the case still? I mean, maybe more will come out as time goes on, or maybe more will just survive that he was unaware of. I don't know. But it's a nice way to kind of further the narrative of Warframe driven characters and introducing more characters to Warframe and giving a more Warframe centric perspective, because that does seem to be a thing we're kind of lacking in Warframe overall. Mostly due to the fact that, again, it's just been the Operator, Dash the Drifter, Lotus, and kind of now Lloyd, and Ortis is there somewhere. And that's kind of it. We kind of got a rotating cast of characters, but again, not really any Warframe perspective. So it is a nice way to bring Warframes in from their own perspective. And this all kind of, the reason I'm doing this video is because it was inspired by, weirdly enough, a thought I had while sitting in the after effect of TennoCon. Because Chimeraframes and the whole detective shtick kind of reminds me of Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which I have played. Let's not go into how good that game was, it's a whole other bag of worms. But suffice to say, in that game, you play as a vampire with a detective in your head. It's a weird premise, but whatever. And he himself is just kind of sitting in your head and kind of giving commentary every now and then. He doesn't speak through you or anything like that, or he doesn't control you. He just kind of watches and gives his own commentary, and you have these moments of internal monologue where the two of you go back and forth. It allows you to have a companion character without actually having to have a whole different character in the game following the protagonist around. It's kind of a nice way to do that. And the whole Chimera frame shtick, especially with the detective aspect of it, kind of reminded me of that, right? And again, it's a nice way to kind of bring out the idea that, I mean, with how Tennos possess warframes and kind of exist in their heads, it's a nice way to kind of have a frame's perspective that can communicate with you. Yes, the detective frame cannot speak, but if you're sitting in his head, you could technically see moments where you could have like a back and forth banter conversation with him entirely within the span of your own head. So again, it's an interesting new medium for storytelling that Warframe and DE themselves are exploring, coming from Chimeraframe. So we'll see if anything comes of that. Maybe this is, like I said, the direction they think of it. Who knows? Maybe they don't. I would hope that they created Chimeraframes with this idea in mind, but I could be way off the mark. But yeah, I just thought I'd make that kind of ranting video, and yeah, it's kind of my opinions on Chimeraframes. Justin is just providing commentary in the background, so if you want to say anything, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really exactly have any opinions. We had to do a quick cut because I had a panic moment, but we're fine. But yeah, I don't really have too many opinions on this, though. I do enjoy some of the Warframe content because I do watch it from time to time. I am not like the warlock we have over here who goes out of his
The
way
lore
to
scholar.
go and be a lore scholar and everything. I am not him.
I
But
shall
that does
recite the tomes of sorrow for you.
but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy good quality work. So,
Fair enough.
there is that.
Oh yeah, I thought we'd get this video out there because, like I said, it was an interesting idea. Like I said, we're possibly moving more in the direction of maybe having more Warframe-centric stories in the future. Because, like I said, Jade Shadows is kind of told in the After Him, and most other regular frames are. Because again, most of them are A, dead, B, mute, or C, both. So it doesn't really allow us to have many characters from Warframes based on them. I mean, Stalker is kind of a good example of that, and even then, he's more like Umbra, and where he has a voice, and heck, he's even better than Umbra because Umbra doesn't even speak. He just kind of glares at you. So, kind of like the Sisters of Silence from Warhammer, they just,
They're
unfortunately,
there.
Warframes don't even use sign language, which would be hilarious. I could definitely see that, but
I
yeah.
could headcanon wise, actually, I could see Warframes having some kind of like physical language type thing that they might
Yeah.
use at times. But it's
Mhm.
just it's so rare, and you're likely to never see it that it's like you who would even know about it.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to the idea of you have to have frames with sentience, which, again, not to spoil too much, if you know what Warframes are, which you should go look into that, you know that they really don't have much in the way of higher intelligence. So,
Mm,
And
yeah.
even the reason for that is kind of left up to debate. Like some of the more recent lore with Dante kind of hinted to the idea that there was a time when the Warframes had some level of self, but because of something that happened, the Orcan freaked the frick out and started euthanizing the lot of them. So, and then the ones that came afterwards were just completely just,
Yeah.
IQ of a rock. So, we don't know what happened. Maybe man on the wall, maybe not. I don't know. But suffice to say, we don't have many sentient Warframes, and therefore not many Warframe opinions, right? So this could be the opening of that door finally, and them finally solving the issue of how do we actually get Warframe characters rather than just characters who happen to also have Warframe powers, like again the Protoframes, which again, as we've discussed, there's a bunch of baggage that comes with that as well. So you can't tell too much in the way of broad storytelling with there. So yeah,
Yeah. There you go.
that's the video. Thought I'd get that out there. Hope y'all enjoyed. Hope y'all found a good one. And let me know if in the future you want to see this kind of content more. Just me rambling on the mic and giving my story perspectives on things. Because I don't know, maybe we'll make this a series if enough people like it.
We could
So
very well easily do like a headcanon or thoughts on lore type videos. So yeah.
we could expand the repertoire beyond us just sitting there going Sony bad, which at the moment is very
News
much the
for
talk.
gaming. Bad.
News for gaming bad, which often just tells us reciting content that everyone else has already said like a dozen times over. So, but whatever. Anyways, that's the video. That's the thing. Like, subscribe, yada yada. Again, and if you're not followed, please follow the channel. It's like 2 seconds for you, but it means everything to us because we're a small channel. We need the numbers. I hope to get to 100 by the end of this year. I do not believe I will, but I will damn well hope it
We
does.
we will do our best to make content that hopefully you enjoy.
Hopefully you enjoy. So that's the video. Hope you have a good one, and goodbye. Bye bye, everybody.
Take it easy.